Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me today. It's Allan Laboucan with the Rocks and Stocks News website. I've got a special show that I'm putting together today. It's an in the news mining stocks, and I'm going to be talking about three of my companies that are sponsors of my website that have had important news releases out that I wanted to talk about. And those include I-80 Gold, Paycore, and 9 Mile Metals, as well as I might have a couple of extras at the end there for you. We'll see how it goes as far as time. I'm recording this on YouTube as well as on Twitter Spaces. So I'm just sending out the Twitter Spaces show right now. Sorry about that. Stocks in the news. So just bear with me. Just about to get it out there to everybody. Give me a second. Sorry for the delay. All these technologies I'm using are can be kind of challenging, but there I've got it out to my friends on. It'll be on YouTube as well as here on Twitter Spaces. So I just got a couple more sites that I'm going to put it on. Yeah, so these three companies that I'm going to talk about today, Paycore, as well as I-80 Gold and 9 Mile Metals, they all had really important news out that I wanted to talk about. Today is Tuesday, the 15th of November, and they all had news out yesterday. And it's really good stuff that I want to talk about. So I just about have all my invites out. Just bear with me one more second, and then we'll get started on the actual show. Getting things out like this can be challenging, but you know, that's the digital world these days. There's lots of opportunities. So I've got all my invites out. And now I'm going to do the show. It's another Rocks and Stocks News special report on the Twitter, or on Twitter Spaces. I just called it In the News. And let's get started. The first company I'm going to talk about is I-80 Gold. I-80 Gold had news out yesterday afternoon. That the headline number was 60.2 grams per ton gold, 908 grams per ton silver, 15.7% lead, 1.1% zinc over 10 meters. Also, they had 1.9 grams of gold, 631 grams of silver, 33% lead, 7.4% zinc over 18.3 meters. This is in a CRD discovery that they're making in Eureka, Nevada. They have a historical pit there that was mined by, I think it was Homestake, and subsequently Barrick after they took it over. The reason that they stopped mining there was the pit called Archimedes had one of the walls caved in, and so they stopped production. They sold the project. That company that bought the project sold it to I-80 Gold, and I-80 Gold has been having tremendous success on this Ruby Hill property ever since they started drilling it. The first thing that got me really excited about the drilling was the Ruby Deeps discovery. They hit some very thick intersections of high-grade gold, and they've continued to expand that. and their grades are consistently higher than the historic drilling. There was some minimal drilling done in the past, but they never really expanded on it very much. So the Ruby Deeps is an exciting play. And then right above that is their 426 zone. Right beside that is the bottom of the Archimedes pit. This is a permitted mine, so that pit gives them easy access to the 426 zone, which gives them easy access to the Ruby Deeps zone. So that was a tremendous, very exciting discovery that they made, and for gold. But then they started looking around at the potential for a polymetallic CRD mineralization. And they had some, under the pit, there was some historical drilling done by the past owners in their Blackjack zone. And they hit some good stuff in there, but they weren't really looking for polymetallic CRDs. They were only really interested in oxide gold, which was what the Archimedes pit was. Even when you look at the Ruby Deeps, that was a sulfide deposit, and they weren't really interested in that. At that time, they were just really interested in oxides. When it comes to sulfides, i-80 Gold has also acquired a facility to process oxide materials. So they started going after that oxide, then they started going after the CRD, and the CRD is just coming out with these spectacular numbers. Like I said in the headline, 60 grams of gold, 908 grams of silver, lots of lead and zinc, over thick intersections, 10 meters, 18 meters. This is truly a prolific system for gold and for CRDs for that matter. Additional, they hit 33 grams of gold, 3,000 grams of silver, 63.5% lead over 0.6 meters, and 3.1 grams of gold, 683 grams of silver, 37.6% lead over 14.6 meters. They had a bunch of other holes in there too, from that Ruby Hill or from that CRD that just look quite spectacular. There's a quote in there from Ewan Downey that I think is really important, and he stated, and I quote, "We believe that the grades of mineralization at Ruby Hill are truly world-class, and the Hilltop Zone ranks among the highest grade new discoveries being drilled anywhere on the planet." And he continues, "Given its proximity to the underground infrastructure planned in 2023, the Hilltop Zone, when combined with the Blackjack deposit, is expected to be a major contributor to our future growth profile as we ultimately look to produce gold, silver, and base metals," end quote. They stated also in the news release, Hilltop is a new zone of mineralization, located approximately 400 meters southwest of the polymetallic Blackjack zone and immediately to the south of the Archimedes pit. You know, further to that, a lot of companies, they have exploration success, but, you know, they also have probably a 7 to 10 year development discount window. In the case of this project, it's already got a permit, so they're already getting ready to do some underground workings, and that's tremendously exciting because they can, you know, go quickly from exploration success into production and start making free cash flow off of this. I was listening to the conference call this morning that Ewan Downey did, and he mentioned a couple things that stood out to me. Was that the grades are quite spectacular. You know, a lot of them are in situ rock value of over $1,000 per ton. that makes for very high profit, low cost and high profit, high margin operations. So that's very exciting. Ewan also mentioned that this is one of the highest grades of any metal out there. So, it's pretty spectacular kind of discovery. They also included that the Ruby Hill Mining District has a high history of high-grade polymetallic CRD production that began in the 1860s and went on for 100 years. So this is a really good place to be looking for CRD deposits. To put that into context, CRD deposits are very exciting. One of the big successes in the mining sector over the last decade was Arizona mining. Some of my listeners might remember that because we started covering it at about 30, 40 cents. Subsequently, they went on to huge success and were bought out for around $1.5 billion. And they made a CRD discovery in Arizona. Looking at CRD to CRD, this project that I-80 has is a higher grade than the Arizona Mining's Taylor deposit. The next company I'm going to talk about is Paycore, and they also have just put out excellent news of their CRD discovery. One thing that really surprises me about these CRDs that both Paycore and I-80 Gold are finding is they have this high-grade gold in them. CRDs are not known for high-grade gold. Usually the gold in them is low-grade. So it looks like these the stuff at I-80 and at Paycore next door to them have a Carlin type overprint of high-grade gold. So basically what that means is that the plumbing system that brought the fluids up through the structures, the faults, the deep cracks in the earth, were good for emplacing both CRD deposits and Carlin deposits, and that makes for a tremendously exciting situation. And before I close on I-80, I'll mention their stock action, which has been quite impressive. They also mentioned that the Hilltop discovery opens up a structural corridor measuring greater than 1.5 kilometers between the Archimedes pit and the original Ruby Hill mine, which was previously underexplored due to post-mineral alluvial cover. So although there is alluvial cover over this area, you can actually see the structures from Google Earth, and it's quite a good structural story, which is why you're getting these high-grade CRDs with high-grade silver, lead, and zinc, but you're also getting this overprint of high-grade gold. They said that mineralization in the upper horizon occurs immediately below alluvial cover at a depth of approximately 150 meters. Geophysical surveys have been completed over the discovery area, including downhole EM, surface and induced polarization surveys in an effort to identify additional massive sulfide targets. There's a couple of really good maps in this news release. One of them is a cross-section, and you can see the exceptional continuity of the high grade with the gold element in there. They have it in two separate packages of rock, two, maybe three, which makes it tremendously exciting because that tells you a lot about the power of the mineralizing system. Then they have a map, Ruby Hill surface plan, and you can see that from sort of the Blackjack deposit all the way to their claim boundaries with Paycore, they have a 1.5 kilometer corridor, and you can actually see the surface expressions of the faulting. which again is very important for the plumbing system. And again, it's just spectacular gold and the CRD itself has high grades because, look at some of these silver numbers that they're talking about. 908 grams per ton silver over 10 meters. I live in Zacatecas, Mexico, which is the state of Zacatecas has produced 10% of the silver ever produced worldwide. And the silver mines down here are on their own are somewhere around 400 grams per ton silver in 2 to 4 meter wide veins. The headline hole here hit 60 grams of gold and 900 grams of silver over 10 meters. They also had a 631 gram per ton silver hit with high-grade lead and zinc in it as well, and a 2-gram gold over 18.3 meters. So these are thick intersections of very highly valuable rock. Yeah, it's really a spectacular discovery that dual discovery that I-80 Gold is making here at the Ruby Hill project. And this news was a real blockbuster. And it went out after the market was closed, and here it is. It was up yesterday and it's up again today. It's up to $3.18. It's up 25 cents today. That's an 8.5% increase on 700,000 shares of trading. The average volume is 453. The stock chart recently went through a triple bottom and has now broken out above the 50-day moving average and the 200-day moving average. This is a very important technical breakout. And I think that, they're heading towards a golden cross that will take them much higher. Now, before I close off, I also want to say something about the price of gold. Gold has been really doing well this past week. It started the month at about $1,640 US. It's now up to 1,772. It's gone through a triple bottom and made an explosive breakout. Why, you might ask, is because we've got some headwinds for the US dollar. The US dollar has been on a tremendous run this year. Started the year at around, let's say 95-ish, 94, started the year at around, let's say 95. It got up to 115-ish, 114 and change. That's the US dollar index. That peak happened in late September. Since then, it's been under a lot of pressure. It's making new lower highs and lower lows. And in the last week, as gold has been moving upwards, it has been plummeting the US dollar. So I think that trend that's been troublesome for gold, silver, and other metals and commodities for that matter, that are priced in the US dollar, have been troublesome. I think we're turning a corner. And really, the US dollar was looking like it was looking for a reason to come off. And that reason is probably the US dollar traders are getting concerned about the strength of the US dollar, and that the Federal Reserve is getting closer to first slowing down the rate of increases of interest rates, then stopping. And then I think not a lot of people are talking yet, but I think they will be in the new year about a pivot to a next round of stimulus. The reason I say that is the Federal Reserve tends to overshoot in both directions. And I think that they are overshooting on the interest rate hikes that are going to be going to be very troublesome for the U.S. economy, the U.S. housing market. We're starting to see a lot of cracks in the system, and other central bankers are starting to slow down and pivot. So I think it's not long before the Federal Reserve does, and that's going to be very good for gold. So when you look at a company like i-80 Gold, they have a tremendous growth profile over the next few years. They're going to be they're shooting towards 250,000 ounces of gold production. They've got the production facilities to process both sulfide material, oxide material, and polymetallic material. So this company has a tremendous growth profile. I can easily see that i-80 is going to grow into a multi-billion-dollar company. They currently have a valuation around $764 million. So I think that, you know, they've got the potential for a big company, well, big relative to the ones I follow in my reports. They have a potential for a 5 to 10 bagger. And I think that's realistic. Go look at their news releases and you'll see why I think that's realistic. Another place to do your homework is my YouTube channel at Rocks and Stocks News. Ewan Downey and the folks at i-80 Gold have been long-term sponsors of my website. He's been very kind with his time to do interviews with me whenever they have news out. He got very busy because of this big news. We were trying to do one last night and this morning, but he had a conference call this morning, and then he's flying off to do some marketing with some big funds out there in New York. So we're gonna shoot for an interview here over the next couple of days to go further into this news release. But I wanted to get something out today because I think that this is just very powerful news that they put out. 60 grams of gold. You know, if you just looked at the gold alone, that would make for a very exciting gold mine. But they've got this CRD. The gold is overprinting a CRD, which is very exciting. So now I wanted to move on to Paycore. Paycore has the ground right beside i-80 Gold. And Paycore just had excellent news out yesterday as well. And I did an interview with Christina McCarthy. She's at a mining conference in Europe right now, but she was kind enough to take some time. I'm really glad to have them as a sponsor as well for my shows, because I can do a bunch of interviews with them. Again, go to the YouTube channel. But here's the headline from their news release. Paycore Minerals intersects 14.8 meters of 6.3% zinc, 10.3% lead, 376 grams of silver, and 7.1 grams of gold, including 5.8 meters of 9.4% zinc, 3% lead, 248 grams of silver, and 15.9 grams per ton gold from their CRD project, at the FAD project in Eureka, Nevada. So along with that news, Christina McCarthy put out a quote, and I quote her: "Hole PC 2208A was drilled in the southeast lobe as a 200-meter step out from the historic resource and nearly 50 meters down dip of hole PC 22-07, which was announced in September. This hole further confirms the existence of additional mineralization outside of the historical resource and within the southeast lobe. i-80 Gold recently announced the scoping study, which included a plan for converting the current process plant from a mill leach facility into a base metal flotation plant, which would process lead, silver, and zinc concentrates. Those base metal facilities, if completed, could be an optimal scenario for any future processing of mineralized material from the FAD deposit, given the I-80 gold. I-80's property is directly next door to us. The Eureka district is one of the most underexplored carbonate-hosted base metal districts within the western part of the United States, with previous operators largely focusing on Carlin-style mineralization. Recent results from PC 2208A continue to demonstrate the high-grade nature of the silver-lead-zinc mineralization. The combined 16.6% lead zinc grade and the 376 grams of silver grades in hole PC 2208A are among the highest combined metal grades Paycore has drilled to date. Additionally, the presence of gold mineralization in the system is adding considerable potential for a higher overall average grade of the deposit. FAD remains open in several directions and is poorly untested down dip, stated Gary Edmondo. Those are combined. The first part was from Christina McCarthy when she closed off talking about being next door to I-80s, and then their exploration manager talked about the US Eureka district. They also included a really important model. And I suggest if you like CRD deposits to go look at this model. And what's exciting about the model is they have circled in black their historic resource. And then they show the zones outside of that historic resource. Now, if you go on Google and you search for models of CRD deposits, what you will see is something exactly like what they are showing in this model. Now, what I also find very exciting is that as they're stepping out and down, the grades of the gold and silver are actually increasing. So there's something going on here with the gold mineralization that is quite impressive if you're looking at I-80 gold or Paycore. They have this very high grade overprint of gold. And so that begs the question, well, where is that gold coming from? And that then you start going back and you look at the region, and you can see that there's some very deep-seated structures, these cracks in the earth that allow the fluids that bring your CRD deposits, the mineralization, and also gold deposits. And so there's a very likely possibility that the gold mineralization and the CRD mineralization are using the same, had used the same plumbing system, the same path of least resistance with these cracks in the earth, these deep cracks in the earth that are allowing both a CRD to come up and a gold, which then brings up the question, where's all this gold coming from? Where is the source? Is this, do you have a Carlin type deposit in very close proximity? And is this, coming off of that? There's just a lot of tremendously exciting things happening in this region around Eureka. Another company that's in that area is a company called Timberline. I just did an interview with them because they had good results out too from their gold target, but then they also sound like they're on the edge of hitting a CRD system as well. So this whole region from, you've got Paycore, you've got I-80 Gold, you've got Paycore, you've got Golden Lake Exploration, then you've got Timberline. Now, Timberline looks like they have the same plumbing system, because that same big cracks in the earth, they go right through from Timberlines through Paycore and I-80. So you've got the right cracks in the earth, if you will, or the structural story for the mineralization of gold and CRD deposits. And in addition to that structural story and the hits that all four of those companies have made, there's also a network of historical mining of CRD deposits throughout that entire corridor from I-80, Paycore, Golden Lake, and Timberline. Now, what's also interesting is that the littlest company in that area, Golden Lake Exploration, has extensive historical mining on it. Now, they're not as far advanced as Paycore and I-80 Gold and Timberline, but when you start looking at those kind of systems and the grades and the historical mining, this whole district from I-80 Gold through Paycore, through Golden Lake, and to Timberline is a tremendously exciting region of Nevada. In fact, I think it's going to be one of the most important new discovery areas in Nevada, period. All these companies have close proximity to the town of Eureka, like 10-15 minutes drive from the town of Eureka. So you really couldn't ask for better infrastructure. And, you know, it's also had a long history, over 100 years of mining of CRD deposits. So you've got the potential for CRD and gold deposits, Carlin type gold deposits that make this whole region tremendously exciting. I can't say enough about these four companies. They're all sponsors of my website. I'm very glad that they are sponsors because this allows me to do a lot of content about the companies. And what makes me even happier is that they all have the truth machine, the drilling that is backing up the potential that, you know, historical potential and now current potential is being realized with drilling on all four of these projects. And, you know, again, what I see is a deep structure that's fertile for CRD and Carlin gold deposits. So, you know, I think that this area is going to get a lot of investor attention. And I'm very bullish on this Eureka gold camp inside of Nevada. And I think you're going to see some spectacular things coming out. Well, we're already seeing spectacular things, but I think that trend will continue. Okay, so now I've talked about a couple of my sponsors that have had great news out yesterday. There's one more I want to talk about. I'm going to move away from gold and I'm going to go into base metals, copper and zinc in New Brunswick. There's a little company out there called 9 Mile Metals that is doing some tremendous things out there. What initially got me excited about 9 Mile Metals is that they hit this thick lens of extreme high-grade copper and nickel with gold and silver in it as well. And this is in a camp called the Bathurst Mining Camp, which is one of the top 3 VMS mining camps in the world. It's truly elephant country for VMS deposits. And right beside that lens, they have a hinge in the rock that you can see in the geophysics. And I think that that's the most likely suspect of where that extreme high-grade lens came from. When you have those kind of grades in sort of the highest extension of a VMS system, it speaks volumes about the potential for high grade in the source of where that lens came from. And it looks like they have a likely suspect in immediate proximity to that lens. But then they started, well, they're actually lining up some drilling for that lens and the potential source of where that lens came from. But over the last month or so, they also started drilling another target that's about 20 kilometers away from the lens that looks spectacular as well. So they just put out results about that, what they call their California Lake VMS. They said that the initial program comprised of 1,226 meters of diamond drilling in 13 holes. So these were just shallow holes in the California Lake VMS project in the Bathurst mining camp. They did 2 initial orientation holes, 3 holes targeting a new gold target 400 meters north along the prospective VMS trend, and 8 holes were colored to intersect VMS mineralization along a 1.5 kilometer late time conductance electromagnetic anomaly defined by EarthX geophysical solutions. To date, 7 drill hole core has been measured, logged, and photographed, cut, with 59 samples being sent to the lab. And they're doing rush assays on those. Okay, so then there's more juice to this. Patrick Cruikshank, who's an MBA and the CEO and director of the company, stated, and I quote, "We couldn't be more excited for the future of our California Lake VMS project. This early stage first pass drill program was based on an initial reprocessing of public megatem data sets by our technical partner EarthX and overlaying late time conductive responses utilized by their algorithms analysis, and further cements our unique leading edge exploration process work in the BMC, that Bathurst mining camp. The success of our technology driven phase 1 program justifies the advanced investment in our model for California Lake. To have VMS results in 7 of the 8 VMS targeted holes in a shallow program is exceptional. We now model our results in 3D and design a UAV, drone, and IPEM surface grid exploration program for 2023. We look forward to analyzing the entire 1.5 kilometer long VMS anomaly and testing this area at depth once advanced metrics are received." End quote. So I want to add a few things to that quote or talk about a few things that stand out to me. You know, being able to hit that much VMS, and if you look at the core in their previous news release, it's just solid massive sulfides. To hit solid massive sulfides in your core off of drilling of historical geophysics is quite unique in the business. I mean, you see a lot more duds with geophysics than you do see with success stories. And that has a lot to do with the methods that EarthX is using. They use sophisticated technology to filter out the noise and vector in to where they should be drilling. And it's testament to the quality of their work that they keep on hitting massive sulfides when they drill holes. They did it at the 9 Mile Brook that I talked about earlier, the lens, and now they're doing it at a target area 20 kilometers away. That is truly unique work that, you know, I've been in this business since 1993. I've seen and been involved with drilling a lot of geophysical targets. Most often they're duds that can be explained by something else. To be able to refine your historical geophysical work and filter out the noise and vector into where you should be drilling, and then drill it and hit massive sulfides, thick intersections of solid massive sulfides, is tremendously unique. Again, I think EarthX is doing a fantastic job for the folks at 9 Mile Metals. Now, they also showed you in their images a drill core locations of their geophysical anomalies and the direction that they were drilled. Now, there's one thing that I really want to point out. You can see in this geophysics that there's like a chain of pearls, and that extends for a pretty significant distance. And this is where they're finding the massive sulfides. So there's lots of room to grow this this 9 mile or this California Lake project, and I can't wait to see them get back drilling there. But in the meantime, they're gearing up to drill their 9 Mile Brook area, where they got this extreme thick and high grade lens of massive sulfides. You know, and then to put it all into context, this is one of the most important VMS camps in the world. So you've got a real elephant country, and these guys are going in there after many companies have been in the area over many years, and they're finding brand new occurrences of massive sulfides in the drill core. This is one of my favorite base metal copper and zinc stories out there. And the company still has a very modest valuation. The valuation for 9 Mile is only 19.1 million market cap. Now, if you're looking for anything in elephant country, and you find what you're looking for, and you have a new technology that is helping you find that, that is the kind of technological breakthrough that leads to finding more mines in fertile areas. There's without a doubt that the Bathurst mining camp is an important camp for VMS deposits. But what makes me the sort of hair stand up in the back of my neck is that 9 Mile is in that lens that they found. It is by far the highest grade occurrence of the massive sulfides in this entire camp that's been in production for decades. And it really could be the jewel in the crown of the entire camp. When you get thick intersections of massive sulfides like that, and you find the source of that, the source, you get an indication of what the source could look like from the lens. Now, remember, this is a volcanogenic massive sulfide, so it's a volcano that brings these fluids up to the surface. And right at surface, which is, let's say, the extension, the highest extension of the volcano, they had extreme high grade over a thick intersection. So that tells you that as you go closer to the system, the volcano that brought it up, think of it sort of like a lava flow on those volcanoes that you see in Hawaii and stuff like that. As the lava flows out, it gets thinner, and as you get closer to the vent of the volcano, that's where you get the big lava. And that's the same kind of idea as what you're looking at in a volcanogenic massive sulfide. So in the lens, you're at the furthest extension. So in the lava flow from a volcano, you're sort of sampling the farthest away from the vent as you can get in that lava field, if you will. Well, that's the same sort of idea with the fluids that bring the metal-bearing fluids, the sulfides that come up in this volcanic event. So I'm very excited about them getting on. There's a package of rock that goes north to south, then has a hinge, and that hinge is in very close proximity to the lens. And you can also see it in the geophysics. And so that is a ideal location to look for the vent, look for the source of that lens that they found. And if they find that source, this is going to be a massive winner. I think that they will find that source. And when they do, things are going to get very, very exciting. And it's no wonder that this company has been in a challenging market for gold stocks. This one has been bucking the trend, and it's actually showing a very powerful chart. It's had sort of a cup that's leaning towards the bullish end. It's had a cup formation, and now it looks like the next breakout is going to be significantly higher. And the catalyst that can do that is the assay results from the California Lake massive sulfides, and from drilling this potential source of the lens. Now, even more exciting is that outside of that lens and the California Lake, they have a bunch of other geophysical anomalies. And now, usually, I don't get very excited about geophysical anomalies, but in the case of the work that EarthX is doing, they're 2 for 2 now, 20 kilometers apart. They're picking targets and hitting massive sulfides. So when they say that they've got a pipeline of more of these geophysical targets, it's really a remarkable story for a company that only has a $19 million valuation, and plenty of catalysts to see that valuation get much better. So 9 Mile Metals is my favorite base metal story, pure base metals anyways. I think that they're headed a lot higher with great catalysts ahead of them. Before I close the show, I wanted to mention my own company where I'm the CEO, which is Advanced Lithium. We put out this morning, a letter to our shareholders, CEO letter to our shareholders. And in that letter, I talked about some situations that the sector has been going through a challenging period. And we've gone through an extra challenging period that has seen our stock drop to 2 cents per share and a valuation of 1.58 million. And a lot of that has to do with the nationalization of, well, the Mexican government is starting a national lithium company. And whenever investors hear that, they think that, well, that means that they're taking over all the lithium deposits in the country. That's not the case. They have stated on multiple occasions that they don't plan on doing anything with companies that are in good standing, like ours. We've drilled a bunch of holes. We've done a bunch of surface sampling. We've shown that these deposits of lithium, potassium, and boron start right at surface, that they get higher grade as you go deeper, and that they're big. So we've got 13 of these salt lake or salars, as they're called down here in Mexico, that are very exciting. But no one is giving us any credit. And I wanted to point out a few things in this letter to our shareholders, that we have some strategic arguments to make for what we're doing. And we also have some legal situations, protection, if you will. One of those is that the US, Mexico, Canada Free Trade Agreement offers us protection, legal protection against the expropriation of our projects. Secondly, the Mexican Constitution is very strong and states that the country is not allowed to retroactively change the mining laws that would affect companies in good standing, which is what we are. So I think that we've got strong legal position The last time the Mexican government did something like this was the oil business. And when they did that to the oil business, they had to buy the concessions off of a bunch of private owners of those oil concessions, because the Constitution is strong in this country when it comes to minerals and oil and gas. And so one of the resolutions is the possibility that they would have to buy these deposits from us. The second and most favorable situation for us is that the country it wants to get into lithium mining, but it needs potassium. We have very high grades of potassium in our deposit, and why that's important is that Mexico currently imports all of it has no domestic production of potassium, and therefore, you know, you look out there at the world situation right now, and you're seeing agricultural minerals are going up a lot because of the problems with getting this stuff all over the world. So these Mexican farmers, the big and the small ones, they have to pay added costs due to importation of the potassium. We have a potential near-term production source of that. Once the Mexican government fully starts their lithium company, which should happen in the next few months, our goal is to meet with them and talk to them about the possibility of creating a joint venture to bring these salars that we have into production quickly and make the country a producer of both lithium, a domestic producer of lithium, potassium, and boron. I wanted to point out in our my CEO letter to our shareholders that these are some of the factors that I don't think the market is giving us any credit for, and that you know, I wanted it to be better known. So I put out this letter. But then prior to us getting into lithium, we were also into silver and gold exploration. And one of our projects is called Veneditas. It's adjacent to Teck's San Nicolas mine. Recently, Agnico Eagle and Teck announced a joint venture to develop the San Nicolas VMS mine. It's a really big one. This San Nicolas is over 100 million tons. That's a big VMS on the world stage. It has two sort of exciting parts to it, close to surface, and it's about a 50-50 mix. Close to surface, they have a lead, zinc, and silver zone, and right below that, they have a copper and gold zone. So it's a very exciting VMS. We have the adjacent property to it. The key fault that is responsible for the mineralization at San Nicolas continues right across our property. And there's a cross-cutting structure to that key fault related to the San Nicolas mineralization. Right at that key fault is a big geophysical anomaly, and there's also a 1,000 by 1,200 meter zone of alteration. This is the ideal scenario for a VMS drilling to look for a VMS. And so this is a high quality VMS target that is pretty much drill ready right now. Another asset that we have is about 10 kilometers from San Nicolas called the Tabascania project. In past drilling at Tabascania, we encountered a series of quartz veins with widespread gold and silver mineralization ranging from anomalous to high grades. These veins were encountered over a corridor of 2,000 meters along strike by 500 meters side to side. Must be about 30 veins in there that we hit with drilling. In addition to that, at the northern extent of that cluster of veins, we hit some. They were under a meter in intersections, but it was high grade zinc in sulfides. So that begs the question, well, where did that come from? And it also shines light on the potential, because not very far away, you have a very good VMS deposit that's now being mined or being built by Agnico Eagle and Teck. So this is also very prospective for VMS. And we need to do some geophysics that give us deeper penetrating geophysics to try to identify where to drill to look for a VMS deposit. So then we also we had a royalty on a project in Kenya that we were able to sell to a royalty company, and this royalty company, Origin Royalties, also had 100% interest in a project called Serape that they sold to us as part, when we sold them the royalty, we got 100% interest in this Serape project. What makes Serape exciting is it's a 55 square kilometer property. It's in close proximity to Silvercrest's Las Chispas mine, which just was announced on November 7th of this year that Silvercrest announced commercial production. It's also in close proximity to First Majestic's Ermitaño underground mine, which is one of their best performing mines in their portfolio. Both of the Las Chispas and Ermitaño are high-grade gold and silver in epithermal veins. So then you start looking at Serape, and Serape has two big veins on it, epithermal veins. One's 5 kilometers long and one's 2 kilometers long. These come to surface and have shown widespread mineralization and only minimal drilling. The Chiltepan is 2 kilometers. It's only seen one drill hole. Serape, which is 5 kilometers long, has only seen 2 drill stations testing about 200 meters of a 5,000 meter vein. These are wide open for exploration. They're in close proximity to important mines. And I'm very excited. Both these veins are ready for drilling, and we're working on some plans to get that drilling done. So I wanted to send out a letter. You can find it on our website. It's a CEO letter to our shareholders. Okay, so there you go, folks. I talked about some companies that are in the news right now. That Eureka area just blows me away. What they're doing at 9 Mile Metals is doing at out in New Brunswick at the Bathurst mining camp is very exciting. I think we've got at Advanced Lithium, AALI, I think we've got some exciting stuff that is being punished in the lithium space, and also some exciting exploration for base metals in a VMS area, and also gold and silver in an area where there's some exceptional mines, mining epithermal veins. We got 2 big ones that have been underexplored, and we've got a big piece of property where we can look for more of these epithermal veins. So on that note, I'm going to say, as always, it's important for you to do your homework, speak with your financial advisors before making any investment decision. A great place to do your homework is go to my YouTube channel at Rocks and Stocks News, and you'll find a bunch of interviews with these various companies and special reports where I talk about these companies. And that's a great place to start your homework. Then go to their websites. You can find a lot of great information in their news releases and in their corporate presentations. And I think if you do that homework, you'll understand why I'm so bullish on all these companies. On that note, have a great day, and we will talk to you soon.